Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian, and I'm streaming to you live from beautiful Budapest. I hope everybody is having a good weekend so far, staying healthy, staying strong, and being optimistic and productive. In this class, we are focusing on some questions and answers from our members to understand the exam and know what is what. And of course, this lesson is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Check us out there. For general IELTS, please visit us at gieltshelp.com. On both of those websites, we have loads and loads of materials to help you understand the exam and improve your band scores. Hi, Jai Neil. Hi, Parmar. Hi, Pavan. Hi, Begjan. And I saw that we have a new member that joined in right at the beginning. That was Kapil Gaur. If you're watching, thank you for joining. Make sure to send me an email, new members, so I can hook you up with your perks. We have 4 levels of membership, each with their own perks, and all you have to do is send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com, and I can enable those videos or practice exams or even the premium course, depending on what you have for your membership. Hi, Hasna. Okay, members, so while I'm giving my little preamble here and explaining the flow of the lesson, start thinking about your questions. They can be any question related to the IELTS or to the English language. I will do my best, of course, to answer all of the questions in the order that I receive them. If anybody wants to get our exam books in hard copy, paperback, you can do that from Amazon. Just search for A Helps Academic IELTS or G Helps General IELTS on Amazon, and you can get those mailed to you, or even buy the electronic versions. Our websites look like this. This is the academic website here with the blue background. Click that big red button to join the premium package. And then, of course, the general version of our website looks like this with the green background. You can click that big red button to join us there. All right, students, so this is the last class for this week, and of course we will continue on Wednesday with a whole new set of classes for next week. We will have a speaking part 3 for today as well after this class, where everybody will be able to join the chat, and that speaking part 3 will continue from yesterday's speaking part 2. So make sure you're here for that. All right, members, so Q&A session. Let's start it off. I know a lot of people are writing exams these days, and if you have a question and you're thinking about it, probably other people have the same question as well. So just fire away, and I shall do my best to give you the answer. All right, Pavan is asking if the topic in speaking part 2 is about describe your job. Can I speak about internship? What if I have answered that I'm a student in part 1? Yeah, you can, Pavan. So if you have an internship somewhere, certainly that's considered a job, okay? If you said that you're a student in part 1, this is where you have to be quick on your feet, and you can still mention that you're working part-time as well to support your expenses and to have some pocket money for hanging out with friends. So Pavan is asking, can I speak about an internship? For those of you who aren't sure what internship means, internship is like a training position while you are at school. So, for example, in law school, students do internships in law firms as legal aids. Okay, that would be an example of it. So that's what we call an internship. Intern kind of means like partly or part. Okay. And ship has this kind of meaning of working or doing a job. Okay, stewardship, for example, is another word. So can I speak about an internship when asked to speak about a job? What if I said student in part 1? Okay, good. That's a good question, Pavan. So the answer is yes. Any job will fit the response. Okay. And remember, the reason why I wrote all this out, Pavan, apprenticeship, Parmar, exactly. Okay, internship, apprenticeship, stewardship. Okay, those are all different kinds of activities. Remember this, students, okay? The IELTS speaking examiner is not there to judge your honesty. They are simply grading your English speaking, or I should say English communication. Okay? It's very important to understand this concept of English communication, not just English, so not just vocabulary and grammar, but your ability to communicate as well. Okay, so you can make up anything. So even if you don't answer I work in part 1, you can still make up part-time job working as a cashier at McDonald's for part 2. Okay, so does that make sense, Pavan? You can absolutely make it up. Okay, and if you're making it up, definitely make up a job that is something that you're familiar with. So think about your hobbies, think about what you're learning at school, and pretend like you're doing a job where you're getting paid for that. Okay, so don't start talking about a job that you have no idea about. Okay, so importantly, when you make up, means imagine, information, use what you know. For example, think of your hobbies, think of your major, and pretend that you have a paid position doing this work. Okay? Because then you can speak more about it. All right? Please, students, don't say, I don't have work. Okay? So do not speak off topic or negative. So what I mean is, if the card says talk about a job that you've done or talk about a job that you do, please don't say I don't work. So, for example, I don't have a job, but I plan to work in the future as it's better. It really is. It's just better to make it up. Okay. It's difficult. It's not that you couldn't possibly get a good mark if you say, well, I don't have a job right now, but in the future I'm planning to work as a dentist because currently I'm going to school and studying dentistry. Yeah, you could do that, but I would only even think about doing it that way if you have really high level of English and you really remember to focus on the card and still answer those questions. Usually when students start with the negative and then go on to talk about what they will do in the future, then they start going off topic. So it's just better to make it up. Does that make sense, everyone? So that's kind of, I know that started as Pavan's question, but that is definitely an important point for everybody because I have had a lot of students who will start to give a negative answer and then go way off topic. And as the examiner, I'm left wondering if the student really has no idea what they're talking about or the question, or they're miscommunicating. So it's very hard to give a good score for coherence and fluency when the answer is not focusing on the question. Is that clear? So is everybody kind of clear on the fact that in the IELTS, it's just better to make up an answer. Think of some general context. Think of a movie that you saw or something from your life, but just make it up and just kind of give a false but believable answer. Okay? So it's often a good idea to give a false but believable answer. Okay. All right. Let me just take the next one. So that was a good question, Pavan, and it kind of led me into some other important thoughts as well. Janil is asking, in the IELTS, how many types of essays can they ask in task 2? Which essay can I write my opinion and not? Janil, that's a really good question. So Janil is asking, how many types of essays can they give me in task 2? And when should I write my opinion? And when should I use the third person voice? That's, I think, what you're asking here. Okay, so here's the answer for you, Janil. Okay, so that's the question. It's a good question, Janil. It's one that's really confusing. Here is kind of a little bit of background for this. Okay, in many English-speaking countries, and it's kind of not fair, but in many English-speaking countries, students start to learn essay writing from grade 7. Okay, did everybody know that? And I don't know if it's like that in China, in India, in other parts of the world. It's probably different in some schools, but there is an average. In Canada, usually, and in the US, UK as well, students do begin to learn essay writing at around grade 7, okay? And they continue that every year into university and then even beyond, of course. And I know that's kind of not fair because I think in some countries, essay writing isn't really a focus of school subjects as much. Maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong there, students? I know we have students from Kazakhstan here, from India, from some other parts of the world, but am I wrong in my assumption that essay writing is not taught the same as in English-speaking countries? It seems like that to me from what I see with students from around the world, that it's less common in some other countries, okay? The reason I say that is because, and you're going to see why I started talking about this, Janil, in just a second, okay? So most grade 12 students in Canada, US, UK have a clear knowledge of essay types like persuasive, narrative, expository, and descriptive, as well as essay or author, I should say, voices, first, second, and third person voice. Okay. So members, am I wrong here? Like, do you learn this in India in grade 7 or 8? What is a persuasive essay? What is a narrative essay? Of course, these are English words, but in literature, this is the same in India. So I'm sure somebody who is majoring in literature in India would know exactly what I'm talking about and would know the words for these in Hindi or Punjabi. Okay. Okay, so Janil says in India, starting essays in fifth is standard, but here it's given the title, Winter's Morning, Pollution. Okay. Yeah, Pavan's saying the same thing as Janil. So from grade 5 to 12, we do practice, but we don't get the feedback and it's too rare. Okay, and Pavan says, I didn't know about this before. And Bekjan says, well, yeah, in Kazakhstan, we didn't really focus on this. Yeah, so it's kind of interesting how this is all missed in many places. But this is the foundation for essay writing, and it's expected that anybody who goes to university knows this, okay? And they don't care where you're from or who you are, okay? So in university, in US, UK, it is expected that students understand these basics of essay writing. And this is where it gets interesting. And for high band scores in the IELTS, this is also true. This is where I'm going to come back and circle back to your answer, Jainil. Okay, so it's also true in the IELTS. And a lot of students that go into the IELTS, they study these templates from different websites of how to write an essay for IELTS. But there is no such thing, okay? The IELTS doesn't really work that way. The IELTS expects students actually to kind of understand these basics of essay writing. So students shouldn't practice the IELTS writing by looking at templates, but they should start by learning these kind of foundations. So ideally, this is a super important point, ideally, IELTS students, especially academic IELTS students, should not focus their writing. And I know, Bekjan, that you've been doing a really great job of learning this because your essays now look fantastic, and I'm sure you can feel that. So Bekjan has sent me some essays recently, and I can see that they're clear 8.59 level essays because he can see the persuasive style and the voice and the structure and put it all together. Okay. Yeah, Hassan, you can do that if the graph shows that. I'll get to your question in a minute, okay? So ideally students, especially academic college students, should not focus on their writing section by learning what I call IELTS template essays, but rather by focusing because these IELTS template essays, like this essay we'll discuss, will get you absolutely nowhere in college or university, okay? So, but rather by focusing on essay foundations, okay? Now, Janil, my easiest way to answer your question is if I go to my student account here, because it's a big answer, okay? And I know it's a bit bright, but I'm gonna help us out here in just a second. And I go to the blog. Okay, let me actually maybe I should show you where I got that from. Okay, I'm just darkening up the screen here so you can clearly see this, students, and I'll do a copy paste of this URL here. Okay, so this is in the My Student account in the blogs. It's absolutely free for everyone. You can see some task 2 examples in here for different kinds of questions, like this one here, IELTS task 2, writing band 9, simple but challenging. And then there's one blog in here, if you keep going through, how to use commas, vocabulary, task 2 samples. Okay. And this is, we put this up quite a while ago, so it'll be here in just a second. Okay. Yeah, so this one, it's the last one on this page, okay? So this blog that we put up in, wow, quite a while ago, 7 years ago, task 2 writing, question types, answer strategies, okay? This is what you're looking for here, Janil. And then if I click the read more, then you will see a nice big answer to your question of how to understand the task 2 questions and how to answer them correctly, how to think about them correctly, okay? So there's quite a bit here. I'm not going to read this all for you right now. You can do that on your own. And there's actually quite a few comments that you can read with students and people who looked at this as well. Okay, Janil? But the most important point is that you have to focus on the question. If it's asking your personal opinion, if it's asking a general opinion, and if it's asking you to discuss both sides, or if it's asking you to discuss just one side. Okay, so here is the URL. Let me just remove this hyperlink, and then maybe I'll make it a tad bit bigger. Hopefully it's still, yeah, let's do that. Okay, so that's the URL. I just pasted it into the lesson notes as well. Okay, so read over this, Janil, and then it's going to give you a lot more clarity. All right. Okay, but definitely students, think about essay fundamentals instead of just thinking about templates. You'll do way better in your task 1, task 2 essays. Okay. All right. So, okay, hopefully that makes sense for everyone. All right, let me go to the next question here. So Bekjan is asking, what would you suggest to do on a daily basis to prepare for IELTS for those who are free all day to study? Wow, that's a really interesting question, Bekjan. It's a good one. Okay, so Bekjan's question is, what should I do to prepare for IELTS? Okay. If I have free time all day. Okay. Good question. All right. First things first, Bekjan. That depends. Okay. So it's kind of a tricky answer. So it depends how much time you have until your exam. Okay. But let's say for argument's sake, let's say you have 1 month. Okay. All right. The first step that everybody should always do when you're preparing for an IELTS exam is start with a practice exam that's timed. Get an assessment, a score for your speaking and for your writing. And figure out what are your weaknesses, okay? So start by completing a mock exam that is timed. Get it scored by an expert and identify your areas of weakness. Okay, then make a study plan which targets these areas of weakness while also focusing some energy on the other sections. Okay. As well, find a book that you would like to read and read an hour a day. This is if you have all the time in the day, an hour a day, every day. Last but not least, find a speaking partner or speaking partners. And I say that because it's good to have more of them. Speaking partners who you can speak to at least for 20 minutes a day, every day. Okay. Aside from this, you should do at least a couple of practice exams each week. And then one more thing that I want to include here is, very importantly, do not just rush through a ton of material, but rather get feedback on your work and mistakes and review and revise material. Okay, so that's what I would recommend, Beckjun. If you have all the time in the world, number one, start with a practice exam, a mock exam that's timed, and then get it scored. So obviously you can score the listening, reading sections on your own. And for example, for the speaking, you can record that on your phone. And for your writing, you can type it into the computer, and then you can actually send that to us, and we can give you a score estimate so you know what your scores are. Now, an even smarter plan, of course, is to get some professional editing work on the writing. And I think you've done this before, Beckjun, where you can clearly see whether it's word choice, grammar, content, where the kind of mistakes are, and then target and focus on fixing those mistakes. It's the fastest way to improve. And then, of course, reading, speaking regularly. It's really, really important. Doing regular exams and having a strict study schedule. So knowing that between 9 and noon, you're focusing on listening and reading skills. Between 2 and 6, you're focusing on writing and speaking skills. Okay, so that's what you want to do. All right, those are the steps. Okay. And stick to it. Stick to it. Be dynamic. Keep your learning interesting so you don't get bored. It's very difficult. Focus on vocabulary as well. When you learn vocabulary, learn it in context. Okay. All right. Let's see. In reading, there is a marking tool. So where can I use this feature? Pavan, are you talking about the computer-based practice exam? I don't recommend underlining in text, if that's what you mean. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. I'm going to go to a couple of other students' questions. So Parmar is asking, I often suffer from making spelling mistakes while writing my task 1. How do I do this perfectly without making any spelling mistakes? Students, spelling is really important. Work on your spelling. Okay, so spelling is very important. in IELTS. So you have to work on this before your exam. The best first step is go to your app store and download some spelling games that you can play daily. Okay, let me show you what I mean. Okay, so I know it's really bright again. That's fine. Let me just darken up our world here a little bit so you can see this. Okay, so spelling games for kids. So notice how as soon as I type in spelling at the top here, you can see that up comes spelling books for free, spelling games for kids. So if you just click on spelling games, okay, boom, right away you have some of these coming up. And English spelling quiz, ABC spelling, spelling game, and then you see their ratings. Download a few of them, try them out. There's actually some that are competitive. Okay, so spelling bee games. Try that. And then you get these ones here. National English Spelling Bee. Spelling Bee actually means like a spelling competition. I think this one is quite fun. I've tried it. Okay. Spelling Bee crosswords. So that one is maybe one that you can try out, okay, to improve your spelling. Definitely get a couple of these, okay? So that's what I would do as a start, Parmar. If you haven't done that yet, start with that, okay? Yeah, so Pavan, you can use that highlighting tool for like keywords and things like that in the CBT, but I don't recommend using it. Just try to stay away from it, okay, if possible. All right, so search for spelling games, spelling games, and spelling bee games. Okay, so search for those keywords. All right. Okay. So let me see. The next question. Okay. Okay, so Hassan, there we go. We're getting to your question, Hassan. So Hassan is asking, in task 1 yesterday in my overview, I wrote 3 main points like a guide for the rest of the essay or the analysis, and you explain these points thoroughly in details in the paragraphs. Yeah, Hassan, you can definitely do that. So in task 1 of the academic, you should start your body paragraph, the analysis or analyses, with a more detailed explanation of the main feature that you, just give me a second, I'll get us back on screen here. Okay, here we go, just 2 seconds. I'll get us back on screen here. So that, yeah, definitely, Hassan, that's what you want to start with. Now, depending on the graph, Hassan, you might have 1 point there for the main feature, 2 or 3 points, but if possible, yeah, you can do it the way we did it yesterday. If not, then, you know, it might just be 1 main feature and you start with that, and then you go into more detailed analysis. Okay. So, explanation of the main feature that you mention in the overview. Okay. This could be 1, 2, or 3 points, but usually not more than that. Okay. And it really depends on the graphs, Hassan. Okay. So just pay attention to the content. All right. Okay. Let's see. Is that clear, Hassan? Are you still here? Okay, you got my point. Cool. Got it. I saw that. Okay. Interesting question. So Janil says, how do I improve idiomatic language in writing and speaking? That is a really, really good question, Janil. So good question. How can I improve idiomatic language in speaking and writing? Okay. First answer is read English story novels, narratives, okay, where the story includes the dialogue of characters. Watch English movies. Yeah, that's a tricky one, Janil, because a lot of people will learn idioms in English and they have kind of an idea of what they mean, but they have difficulty actually using them correctly. And that's because using idioms naturally comes from being familiar with the native language. Okay, there's no way around that. So the only way that you can really learn how to use idioms well is by reading books where you see the idioms being used and watching movies where the idioms are being used. It's definitely not a good idea to just randomly use an idiom thinking that it's okay, because oftentimes I do see people forcing idioms in their writing and in their speaking, and that definitely does not help the band scores, okay? It makes it really confusing, all right? So by watching movies, by reading books where you come across these idioms, that makes it clear on how to use it or how to use them. Okay. All right. Let me keep going here. Kapil, there you are, one of our new members. So Kapil, yeah, that's a question we've been asked before a couple times. So Kapil is asking, which one is better, paper-based or computer-based test to do? Okay, they both have their advantages, disadvantages. It really depends on your skills. Okay, so this is the question: which should I do? Computer-based test or paper-based test? Okay. You should only do the computer-based test if you are fluent in English touch typing. Okay. Definitely do not sit the computer-based test if you don't know how to touch type fluently in English while looking at the screen, okay? So make sure that you are computer literate. Okay, otherwise do the paper-based test. If you are computer literate, I would recommend doing the computer-based test, okay? So if you're not, then do the paper-based test, okay? That's my suggestion, all right? Some people have a better flow of ideas because this especially kind of matters for the writing section. Okay, the listening and the reading, I don't think it's a huge difference between computer-based or paper-based necessarily. But definitely in the writing section is where you experience the biggest difference, because it's a big difference whether you're writing 500 words by touch typing for an hour or you're writing for an hour by hand. So you have to be aware of your own skills and think about, am I more comfortable writing essays by hand, or am I more comfortable writing essays by touch typing in English, of course, right? So whichever one you prefer, that's the one I would focus on. Does that make sense, Kapil? Yeah, so corrections can be done easily on computer, but you can correct on paper-based as long as you know how to, okay, by just doing a strike through and then writing in another word. So it's true, Kapil, that you can correct easier on computer, but it's sometimes easier to review on paper. So they both do have their ups and downs. Also, some people argue that they have a better flow of ideas when they're writing by using one hand, right? So this is where you have to kind of try both. So try writing an essay for task 2 by typing, try writing an essay by hand, and see which one fits your style more. If you find that it's the computer, then do it. Go for the computer-based, okay? All right. Okay, let's take one more question. So Hassan is asking, as an IELTS expert, do you believe the IELTS exam is flawless? Is there a way the committee can improve the exam to benefit both candidates and examiners? Very good question, Hassan. Okay, so is the IELTS a perfect exam? Does it perfectly measure English ability? Okay, that is a highly complex question, Hassan. As you've realized with me, the answers are usually not that simple. Okay, firstly, you must realize that there are actually 2 exams here: academic and general, and 2 versions, paper and computer. The science of measuring human thought processes, including language, is known as psychometrics. Okay. All right, Hassan, so you're going to get a little bit of an insight into the magical world of IELTS and how IELTS works, okay? So IELTS is governed, or the creation of IELTS exams is governed by the ESOL examination board. Okay. The board, which is a part of Cambridge University. Okay. Cambridge University, of course, being one of the oldest universities in the world. ESOL and Cambridge work together with British Council and IDP, which is Australian, to distribute, administer, supervise the exam. British Council and IDP work together with thousands of official IELTS test centers and trained examiners, markers that do their job based on very specific marking criteria or marking rubrics. Hassan's maybe going, oh, why did I even ask this question? Okay, we're going really far down this gravy trail here. Just let me close this notification here just a second. I see that kind of popped up. Okay. All right. So is that kind of clear how IELTS, the world of IELTS is working? There's a good reason why it's such an expensive exam. Okay. So the science of psychometrics, measurement of human thoughts and behaviors. Of course, it's a part of psychology. I studied this. I think that's why a lot of students kind of like my approach to IELTS, because I approach IELTS the same way as the way those who create the IELTS at ESOL. So we think about the exam kind of in the same way, okay, without going into too much detail. So the science of psychometrics, measurement of human thoughts and behaviors, focuses on creating tests that are highly reliable and valid. These are two key words here. And valid. Okay. Reliable means that the test will yield the same results as long as the candidate has the same ability. Meaning the results do not change in a test-retest environment. Okay. Valid means that the test truly measures what it is designed to measure. Okay. Now, I'm going to kind of, so without taking you guys too far down this road of psychometrics, I'm not sure if you're still interested in this or not, but just kind of a concept here. So among the famous English proficiency exams, TOEFL, IELTS, TOEIC, PTE, CELPIC, Duolingo has come on the scene now. It is still clear that IELTS has the highest level of reliability and validity, followed by TOEFL. Okay. Therefore, it is the preferred exam by institutions and governments. Is it perfect? I should say, is IELTS perfect? No. But it is the best we have at this time. All right. So there you go. That hopefully makes sense, okay? It's very difficult to measure human thinking and language, as you can imagine. The diversity around the world is incredible. It changes very quickly within people. Language is continuously changing as well. Communication styles change, cultural backgrounds. So it's extremely difficult. But IELTS is the best that we have so far. They could probably make an exam that would do an even better job of measuring English. But you have to remember that there are other constraints. Like, you can't have a person sit in an exam for 12 hours, and you can't ask a person to pay $2,000 because then most people wouldn't be able to do it. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. Okay, that's kind of my closing remark as well, right? So keep in mind that the exam creation has limits, like people's finances and energy. Okay. Arguably, you could do a better job of testing somebody's English if you had them do 10, 15 hours of examinations. And of course, they'd have to pay thousands of dollars because it would take so much more time from professionals. But that's not realistic. Then people wouldn't have the opportunity, many people, to do this exam. So we have to keep it realistic as well. So within these parameters, within the budget, IELTS is arguably the best out there right now. Okay, and definitely they're always looking at how to improve it, how to make it better, more reliable, more valid. So all of that. Okay, Hassan, I'm glad you enjoyed that answer. It's a good question. Okay, I think a lot of people never really think about that part of IELTS. So that was a good question. All right, everyone, that's it for this class. Coming up in about 35 minutes, I'll host one more class for today. For this week of live streaming. That will be speaking part 3. That will be a continuation from part 2 that we took yesterday. If you missed that, it's totally okay. Or you could also have a look at yesterday's part 2 video during the next 30 minutes. Check the cue card question so that you can engage the next class a little bit more. Hopefully, I will see all of you in 30 minutes. I'm Adrian, and I'm signing out from Budapest. By the way, you can get lots more info, as I showed you, on our websites, through our blogs and interactive courses. Just make sure to visit us at ahelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Thank you for your great questions, members. Bye for now. See you soon.